Welcome. Now that you have a solid foundation on the basics of data, it's time to focus on some particular skills and characteristics that will be key to your future career as a data analyst. We'll begin with 5 key skills, move on to the characteristics of analytical thinking, and then learn how data analysts balance their roles and responsibilities. Along the way, you'll also discover how to tap into your own natural abilities for strategy, technical expertise, and data design. These are incredibly helpful skills to have, and you'll learn how to make them even stronger. Finally, you'll be introduced to some fascinating, real-world examples of how data is influencing the lives of people all around the world. All right, let's get started. Earlier, I told you that you already have analytical skills. You just might not know it yet. When learning new things, sometimes people overlook their own skills, but it's important you take the time to acknowledge them, especially since these skills are going to help you as a data analyst. In fact, you're probably more prepared than you think. Don't believe me? Well, let me prove it. Let's start by defining what I'm talking about here. Analytical skills are qualities and characteristics associated with solving problems using facts. There are a lot of aspects to analytical skills, but we'll focus on 5 essential points. There are curiosity, understanding context, having technical mindset, data design, and data strategy. Now, you may be thinking, I don't have these kinds of skills, or I only have a couple of them. But stay with me, and I bet you'll change your mind. Let's start with curiosity. Curiosity is all about wanting to learn something. Curious people usually seek out new challenges and experiences. This leads to knowledge. The very fact that you're here with me right now demonstrates that you have curiosity. All right, that was an easy one. Now, think about understanding context. Context is the condition in which something exists or happens. This can be a structure or an environment. A simple way of understanding context is by counting to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All of those numbers exist in the context of 1 through 5. But what if a friend of yours said to you 1, 2, 4, 5, 3? Well, the 3 would be out of context. Simple, right? But it can be a little tricky. There's a good chance that you might not even notice the 3 being out of context if you aren't paying close attention. That's why listening and trying to understand the full picture is critical. In your own life, you put things into context all the time. For example, let's think about your grocery list. If you group together items like flour, sugar, and yeast, that's you adding context to your groceries. This saves you time when you're at the baking aisle at the grocery store. Let's look at another example. Have you ever shuffled a deck of cards and noticed a joker? If you're playing a game that doesn't include jokers, identifying that card means you understand it's out of context. Remove it, and you're much more likely to play a successful game. All right, so now we know you have both curiosity and the ability to understand context. Let's move on to the third skill, a technical mindset. A technical mindset involves the ability to break things down into smaller steps or pieces and work with them in an orderly and logical way. For instance, when paying your bills, you probably already break down the process into smaller steps. Maybe you start by sorting them by the date they're due. Next, you might add them up and compare that amount to the balance in your bank account. This would help you see if you can pay your bills now or if you should wait until the next paycheck. Finally, you'd pay them. When you take something that seems like a single task, like paying your bills, and break it into smaller steps with an orderly process, that's using a technical mindset. Now let's explore the fourth part of an analytical skill set, data design. Data design is how you organize information. As a data analyst, design typically has to do with an actual database. But again, the same skills can easily be applied to everyday life. For example, think about the way you organize the contacts in your phone. That's actually a type of data design. Maybe you list them by first name instead of last, or maybe you use email addresses instead of their names. What you're really doing is designing a clear, logical list that lets you call or text a contact in a quick and simple way. The last, but definitely not least, the fifth and final element of analytical skills is data strategy. Data strategy is the management of the people, processes, and tools used in data analysis. Let's break that down. You manage people by making sure they know how to use the right data to find solutions to the problem you're working on. For processes, it's about making sure the path to that solution is clear and accessible. And for tools, you make sure the right technology is being used for the job. Now, you may be doubting my ability to give you an example from real life that demonstrates data strategy. But check this out. Imagine mowing a lawn. Step one would be reading the owner's manual for the mower. That's making sure the people involved, well, you in this example, know how to use the data available. The manual would instruct you to put on protective eyewear and closed-toe shoes. Then it's on to step two, making the process, the path, clear and accessible. This would involve you walking around the lawn, picking up large sticks or rocks that might get in your way. Finally, for step three, you check the lawnmower, your tool, to make sure it has enough gas and oil and is in working condition so the lawn can be mown safely. So there you have it. Now you know the 5 essential skills of a data analyst: curiosity, understanding context, having a technical mindset, data design, and data strategy. I told you that you are already an analytical thinker. Now you can start actively practicing these skills as you move through the rest of this course. Curious about what's next? Move on to the next video. Now that you know the 5 essential skills of a data analyst, you're ready to learn more about what it means to think analytically. People don't often think about thinking. Thinking is second nature to us. It just happens automatically. But there are actually many different ways to think. Some people think creatively, some think critically, and some people think in abstract ways. Let's talk about analytical thinking. Analytical thinking involves identifying and defining a problem and then solving it by using data in an organized, step-by-step manner. So as data analysts, how do we think analytically? Well, to answer that question, we will now talk about a second set of 5. The 5 key aspects to analytical thinking. They are visualization, strategy, problem orientation, correlation, and finally, big picture and detail-oriented thinking. Let's start with visualization. In data analytics, visualization is the graphical representation of information. Some examples include graphs, maps, or other design elements. Visualization is important because visuals can help data analysts understand and explain information more effectively. Think about it like this. If you are trying to explain the Grand Canyon to someone, using words would be much more challenging than showing them a picture. A visualization of the Grand Canyon would help you make your point much quicker. Now let's talk about the second part of analytical thinking, being strategic. With so much data available, having a strategic mindset is key to staying focused and on track. Strategizing helps data analysts see what they want to achieve with the data and how they can get there. Strategy also helps improve the quality and usefulness of the data we collect. By strategizing, we know all our data is valuable and can help us accomplish our goals. Next up on the analytical thinking checklist, being problem-oriented. Data analysts use a problem-oriented approach in order to identify, describe, and solve problems. It's all about keeping the problem top of mind throughout the entire project. For example, say a data analyst is told about the problem of a warehouse constantly running out of supplies. They would move forward with different strategies and processes, but the number one goal would always be solving the problem of keeping inventory on the shelves. Data analysts also ask a lot of questions. This helps improve communication and saves time while working on a solution. An example of that would be surveying customers about their experiences, using a product and building insights from those questions to improve that product. This leads us to the fourth quality of analytical thinking, being able to identify a correlation between 2 or more pieces of data. A correlation is like a relationship. You can find all kinds of correlations in data. Maybe it's the relationship between the length of your hair and the amount of shampoo you need. Or maybe you notice a correlation between a rainier season leading to a high number of umbrellas being sold. But as you start identifying correlations in data, there's one thing you always want to keep in mind. Correlation does not equal causation. In other words, just because two pieces of data are both trending in the same direction, that doesn't necessarily mean they are all related. We'll learn more about that later. And now, the final piece of the analytical thinking puzzle, big picture thinking. This means being able to see the big picture as well as the details. A jigsaw puzzle is a great way to think about this. Big picture thinking is like looking at a complete puzzle. You can enjoy the whole picture without getting stuck on every tiny piece that went into making it. If you only focus on individual pieces, you wouldn't be able to see past that, which is why big picture thinking is so important. It helps you zoom out and see possibilities and opportunities. This leads to exciting new ideas or innovations. On the flip side, detail-oriented thinking is all about figuring out all of the aspects that will help you execute a plan. In other words, the pieces that make up your puzzle. There are all kinds of problems in the business world that can benefit from employees who have both a big picture and a detail-oriented way of thinking. Most of us are naturally better at one or the other, but you can always develop the skills to fit both pieces together. And now that you know the 5 aspects of analytical thinking, visualization, strategy, problem orientation, correlation, and big picture and detail-oriented thinking, you can put them to work for you when you're working with data. And as you continue through this course, you'll learn how. Let's recap what we've learned about analytical thinking so far. The 5 key aspects are visualization, strategy, problem orientation, correlation, and using big picture and detail-oriented thinking. And we've seen how you already use them in your everyday life. We also talked about how different people naturally use certain types of thinking, but that you can absolutely grow and develop the skills that might not come as easily to you. This means you can become a versatile thinker, which is a very important part of data analysis. You might naturally be an analytical thinker, but you can learn to think creatively and critically, and be great at all 3. The more ways you can think, the easier it is to think outside the box and come up with fresh ideas. But why is it important to think in different ways? Well, because in data analysis, solutions are almost never right in front of you. You need to think critically to find out the right questions to ask, but you also need to think creatively to get new and unexpected answers. Let's talk about some of the questions data analysts ask when they're on the hunt for a solution. Here's one that will come up a lot. What is the root cause of a problem? A root cause is the reason why a problem occurs. If we can identify and get rid of a root cause, we can prevent that problem from happening again. A simple way to wrap your head around root causes is with a process called the 5 whys. In the 5 whys, you ask why 5 times to reveal the root cause. The 5th and final answer should give you some useful and sometimes surprising insights. Here's an example of the 5 whys in action. Let's say you wanted to make a blueberry pie but couldn't find any blueberries. You'd be trying to solve a problem by asking, why can't I make a blueberry pie? The answer would be, there are no blueberries at the store. There's why number 1. So you then ask, why were there no blueberries at the store? And discover that the blueberry bushes don't have enough fruit this season. That's why number 2. Next you'd ask, why was there not enough fruit? This would lead to the fact that birds were eating all the berries. Why number 3, asked and answered. Now we get to why number 4. Ask why a 4th time, and the answer would be that although the birds normally prefer mulberries and don't eat blueberries, the mulberry bushes didn't produce fruit this season. So the birds are eating blueberries instead. And finally, we get to why number 5, which should reveal the root cause. A late frost damaged the mulberry bushes, so they didn't produce any fruit. So you can't make a blueberry pie because of a late frost months ago. See how the 5 whys can reveal some very surprising root causes? This is a great trick to know, and it can be a very helpful process in data analysis. Another question commonly asked by data analysts is, where are the gaps in our process? For this, many people will use something called gap analysis. Gap analysis lets you examine and evaluate how a process works currently in order to get where you want to be in the future. Businesses conduct gap analysis to do all kinds of things, such as improve a product or become more efficient. The general approach to gap analysis is understanding where you are now compared to where you want to be. Then, you can identify the gaps that exist between a current and future state and determine how to bridge them. A third question that data analysts ask a lot is, what did we not consider before? This is a great way to think about what information or procedure might be missing from a process, so you can identify ways to make better decisions and strategies moving forward. These are just a few examples of the kinds of questions data analysts use at their jobs every day. As you begin your career, I'm sure you'll think of a whole lot more. The way data analysts think and ask questions plays a big part in how businesses make decisions. That's why analytical thinking and understanding how to ask the right questions can have such a huge impact on the overall success of a business. Later, we'll talk more about how data-driven decisions can lead to successful outcomes. In an earlier video, you learned about 5 essential analytical skills. As a reminder, they are curiosity, understanding context, having a technical mindset, data design, and data strategy. In the next couple of videos, we'll explore how these abilities all become part of data-driven decision-making. But first, let's look at the concept of data-driven decision-making and why it's more likely to lead to successful outcomes. You might remember that data-driven decision-making involves using facts to guide business strategy. Data analysts can tap into the power of data to do all kinds of amazing things. With data, they can gain valuable insights, verify their theories or assumptions, better understand opportunities and challenges, support an objective, help make a plan, and much more. In business, data-driven decision-making can improve the results in a lot of different ways. For example, say a dairy farmer wants to start making and selling ice cream. They could guess what flavors customers would like, but there's a better way to get the information. The farmer could survey people and ask them what flavors they prefer. This gives the farmer the data they need to pick ice cream flavors people will enjoy. Here's another example. Let's say the president of an organization is curious about what perks employees value most. She asked the human resources director, who says people value casual dress code. It's a gut feeling, but the HR director backs it up with the fact that he sees a lot of people wearing jeans and t-shirts. But what if this company were to use a more structured employee feedback process, such as a survey? It might reveal that employees actually enjoy free public transportation cards the most. The human resources director just didn't realize that because he drives to work. These are just some of the benefits of data-driven decision-making. It gives you greater confidence about your choice and your abilities to address business challenges. It helps you become more proactive when an opportunity presents itself, and it saves you time and effort when working towards a goal. Now let's learn more about how these 5 skills help you tap into all the potential of data-driven decision-making. First, think about curiosity and context. The more you learn about the power of data, the more curious you're likely to become. You'll start to see patterns in relationships in everyday life, whether you're reading the news, watching a movie, or going to an appointment across town. The analysts take their thinking a step further by using context to make predictions, research answers, and eventually draw conclusions about what they've discovered. This natural process is a great first step in becoming more data-driven. Having a technical mindset comes next. Everyone has instincts, or, as in the case of our human resources director example, gut feelings. Data analysts are no different. They have gut feelings too, but they've trained themselves to build on those feelings and use a more technical approach to explore them. They do this by always seeking out the facts, putting them to work through analysis, and using the insights they gain to make informed decisions. Next, we come to data design, which has a strong connection to data-driven decision making. To put it simply, designing your data so that it's organized in a logical way makes it easy for data analysts to access, understand, and make the most of available information. And it's important to keep in mind that data design doesn't just apply to databases. This kind of thinking can work with all sorts of real-life situations too. The basic idea is this: if you make decisions that are informed by data, you are more likely to make more informed and effective decisions. The final ability is data strategy, which incorporates the people, processes, and tools used to solve a problem. This is a big one to remember because data strategy gives you a high-level view of the path you'll need to take to achieve your goals. Also, data-driven decision-making isn't a one-person job. It's much more likely to be successful if everyone is on board and on the same page. So it's important to make sure specific procedures are in place and that your technology being used is aligned with your data-driven strategy. Now you know how these 5 essential analytical skills work towards making better data-driven decisions. So far, many of the examples you've heard are hypothetical. That means they could be true in theory, but aren't specific real-world cases. Next, we'll look at some real examples. I can't wait to share how data analysts put data to work for amazing results. In this video, I'm going to share some case studies that highlight the incredible work data analysts do. Each of these scenarios shows off the power of data-driven decision-making in unexpected ways. The first story is about Google. As I mentioned a little while back, here at Google, our mission is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. All of our products, from idea to development to launch, are built on data and data-driven decision-making. There are tons of examples here at Google of people using facts to create business strategy. But one of the most famous ones has to do with Google's human resources. So here's how it went. The HR department wanted to know if there was value in having managers. Were their contributions worthwhile, or should everyone just be an individual contributor? To answer that question, Google's People Analytics team looked at past performance reviews and employee surveys. The data they found was plotted on a graph because, as you've learned, visuals are extremely helpful when trying to understand a problem or concept. The graph revealed that Googlers had positive feelings about their managers, but the data was pretty general, and the team wanted to learn more. So they dug deeper and split the data into quartiles. A quartile divides data points into 4 equal parts, or quarters. Here's where the really cool stuff started happening. The data analysts discovered that there was a big difference between the very top and the very bottom quartiles. As it turned out, the teams with the best managers were significantly happier, more productive, and more likely to want to keep working at Google. This confirmed that managers were valued and make a big difference. Therefore, the idea of having only individual contributors was not implemented. But there was still more work to do. Just knowing that great managers create great results doesn't lead to actionable insights. You have to identify what exactly makes a great manager. So the team took 2 additional steps to collect more data. First, they launched an awards program where employees could nominate their favorite managers. For every submission, you had to provide examples or data about what makes that manager great. The second step involved interviewing managers who are graphed on the top and bottom quartiles. This helped the analytics team see the differences between successful and less successful management behaviors. The best behaviors were identified, as were the most common reasons for a manager needing improvement. The final step was sharing these insights and putting a procedure in place for evaluating managers with these qualities in mind. This data-driven decision continues to create an exceptional company culture for my colleagues and me. Thanks, data. Another interesting example comes from the nonprofit sector. Nonprofits are organizations dedicated to advancing a social cause or advocating for a particular effort, such as food security, education, or the arts. In this case, data analysts research how journalists can make a more meaningful impact for the nonprofits they would write about. Because journalists write for newspapers, magazines, and other news outlets, They can help nonprofits reach readers like you and me, who then take action to help nonprofits reach their goals. For instance, say you read about the problem of climate change in an online magazine. If the article is effective, you learn more about the cause and might even be compelled to make greener choices in your day-to-day life, volunteer for a nonprofit, or make a donation. That's an example of the journalist's work bringing about awareness, understanding, and engagement. So, back to the story. The data analysts used a tracker to monitor story topics, clicks, web traffic, comments, shares, and more. Then they evaluated the information to make recommendations for how the journalists could do their jobs even better. In the end, they came up with some great ideas for how nonprofits and journalists can motivate people everywhere to work together and make the world a better place. There's really no end to what you can do as a data analyst. As you progress through this program, you'll discover even more possibilities. Great job following along with the topics in these past few videos. You learned all about analytical skills and the 5 key characteristics of data analysts. You probably even learned that you're a pro at most of these already. Next, you discovered what it means to think analytically and the specific skills data analysts develop to help them do it. You explore tools and processes that enable data analysts to pinpoint a problem and ask the right questions in order to solve it. Finally, some real-world stories helped illustrate why data-driven decision-making is usually more successful than other methods. You're building a wonderful foundation for your career as a data analyst. With every video, your skills will continue to expand and your understanding of key data analytics concepts will only get stronger. Soon, you'll have a chance to test out everything you've learned. This is a really useful opportunity to check your understanding of all the concepts we've discussed. And if you're ever unsure about a question, you can review the videos and readings to find the answer. This is another awesome way to practice collecting data. Keep up the great work.
Thank you for watching our video. We hope you found it helpful. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button below and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. If you know someone who could benefit from this information, please share it with them. We would love to hear your thoughts on this learning course, so please leave a comment below. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.